Good afternoon, everyone. It is Wednesday, February 15th, 2023 at 3 o'clock p.m. And that means it's time for Women in Business. I have to laugh at myself today because I scared myself a little bit when I hit the title bumper because I didn't expect it to go that fast. It's funny how I amuse myself, but me amusing myself is not why you're here today. You are here because of my guest, Ashley Ciccero from Artesprix, and I'm going to pop her in here. Ashley, thank you for being with us.
Thank you for having me, Christine. Hello, everyone.
Oh, so excited you're here. Now, I should say you are the Director of Sales and Marketing at Artesprix. For those of you who don't know what Artesprix is, I'm going to pop over here to my banners so I can put up a quick. They are these really cool markers, and you have paints now too, correct?
Yeah, so we're just taking sublimation arts and craft supplies. That's what
Yes. So it's really cool stuff though. And trust me, I know because I used to work for a company that was a supplier of these and sold them, and they're very fun. So I got to play with them. But that's not what we're here to talk about today necessarily. Although the first thing I do want to talk about is something that kind of tangentially has to do with the sublimation craft supplies and other things that people use to start small businesses. And I wanted to talk to you about this because I wondered if it was something that you've experienced, which is somebody gets supplies, gets equipment, starts a small business, could be an artist, could be a mom who's looking for a side hustle, whatever it is. And then they don't take it seriously, or they feel that the people around them don't take that their business seriously. Have you heard that from people? Have you experienced that?
Well, we do have quite a bit of, and just because of the industry that we're in, it's primarily female.
Yep.
We do have quite a bit of people who take our products and implement that into even a side hustle within their side hustle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And maybe the primary focus of their side hustle is like professional level sublimation using a printer, right? And then they want to expand into other ways, and they think that our products are a great way to, expand their audience and bring people in that may also end up purchasing some of those printer projects, if you will. But as far as being taken seriously versus not seriously, I haven't necessarily had firsthand experience hearing anything of people not be taken seriously. So I guess that's a good thing.
That is a good thing.
But I certainly could see that happening. And I think most of that just comes from you making the most of it and showing that you are certainly serious about what you're trying to do, and just, keep on keeping on, because that's how you would show them that you're serious.
Mm-hmm.
Don't stop for anything.
Well, and I think we talked about this a little bit before the show, and I want to bring this point up too, because we both made it. COVID has changed a lot of what people think about where you can work from, how you can work, all that kind of stuff. And your products particularly are great because they can work from anywhere.
Yes, and you don't need a lot of fancy equipment.
Right.
You can certainly, like you mentioned, do it on the go, especially if you have a small handheld craft press like this. That makes it really easy to take it mobile. And even if if people want to do something more intimate at their home, you can even go to their house and host some type of party, or add an extra element to the party that they're hosting by allowing people to make their own creations.
I have to say, one of the things that I always thought was really cool about the Artesprix concept was for artists, where you could use your art and let somebody color it their own way. It almost would be like color by numbers a little bit or something. I don't know why that appeals to me.
It's true. And even if you're not an artist, what's really cool is you could print out a project on your regular sublimation
Mhm.
printer, and then just have it be like almost like a coloring book, and then fill that in. So you certainly don't even need to be that artistically inclined to take it back to your early days and color it in. And that would be a great way to, like I mentioned, like COVID having more intimate things at people's homes, you could bring those printouts and have them color it in, and they certainly don't need to be an artist to appreciate it and partake and have some fun.
Well, I'm just laughing about this a little bit because we did a live in I did a live with Lindsay Salcido, who owns Linny Penny Embroidery Designs.
Okay.
And she did a live where she digitized her kids' artwork. And I was just thinking how cool that would be if you could have something your kid colored that you could sublimate and then you could do digitized artwork. See, I'm coming up with like multimedia projects. I'm making myself laugh, but
And the kids love it because it's like educational science meets fun. So they do.
yeah, definitely. But I do want to talk a little bit just about you're a woman in this industry, and I'm a woman tangentially in this industry. And one of the things that I feel like women combat a lot is their own perception of their businesses, if that makes sense. That women kind of tend to go, well, I'm working from home or I'm only working part time or whatever it is. And I wanted to ask you what how you thought we break how you think if you thought about it we break that cycle. Is it just telling people to stop doing that, or is it training them, or
I think it has become the social norm as time has gone on. If anybody in 2019, I don't think any of us could anticipate how many people would start working from
yeah.
home. If we said that, we would laugh, right? But
Mhm.
now you say it, and people don't, think twice about it. So I think as more people do it, it'll just become more socially acceptable. There might be some old school naysayers, right, that just
Mhm.
could never imagine that everybody's working from home. I do live 2.5 miles from the office. And sometimes I do like coming in just so I can touch base with people face to face. There's nothing like face to face. That's why we go to
Sure.
these events and things like that. It does make a difference, but does it need to be every day for 8 hours, right? I don't
Mhm.
think that that's necessarily the case anymore. And I think it's nice to be able to have that. Like me, I like coming into the office, but I also like doing it from home. So I like that I have both. And I think, like I said, I just think as time has gone on, it's become the norm. And the more people that do it, the more it makes it, the majority, if you will.
Well, and I think the other half of this, and we talked about this a little bit. See, you guys miss all the great chats before the show. So, but we
It was
talked
our
about
warm
this a
up.
little
Our
bit.
warm up.
But yeah, our warm up. But I also think it has to do with how seriously you take yourself too. I mean, like I do a lot of my work, honestly, in yoga pants on my couch with the laptop. But nobody needs to know that unless I out myself here on the show. But I mean, do you think that's true that a lot of it is how we present ourselves and what we say?
Well, and of course, there's that old saying, like, dress for the job you
Yeah.
want, not the job that you have. And I'll tell you something. So, my dad is the founder of Asprey's parent company, which is not a pun. That just happens to be how it is. And when I first started working here around 6 years ago, people like dressed up to come in. And I did at first, no problem. But then I realized over time, I said, we don't have like foot traffic. Like people aren't coming in to make
Mhm.
appointments. Like everything, it's literally just an office building. I mean, the only person you would see is like the UPS guy, right? Or something
Right.
like that. Like it didn't really matter. And I just thought to myself, like, why am I taking all this time? Now, some people,
Mhm.
it helps them like work better, right? They get dressed up, they feel good, they hustle harder. That might be how it works for some people. I'm not one of those people. So I felt like that was time that I was taking to, like you said, it's just easier to throw on your athleisure wear and so
Mhm.
on. So I've been wearing, and it's so funny. So I've been wearing athleisure wear to work for a few years now. I would say at least half the time, at least in the last 3 years. And slowly, a lot of people are like, okay, Ashley's doing it, so I'm going to start. But some people
Mhm.
still wear the same thing that they wore, a style 6 years ago, and that's okay too. But certainly, I don't think my work output has been affected because I started changing my clothes. So,
Nope.
so I can relate to that. But for me, I'm glad I started to bend the rules a little bit because you know, it it didn't make sense to me. But that's just how I think.
Well, and I think what you said there is a good point. For most people, when they're doing their work, you don't have people street I don't have people coming in and out of my front door all the time going, "What's she doing?" Most of my work is either via messenger or by text or email or video chat or whatever it is. So they don't know.
Right.
And really all they care about in the end is I could be wearing a clown nose and a bozo wig, and as long as I was doing the work that they needed me to do, though that's an image that I really would prefer not to focus on is me in a clown nose and a bozo wig, but.
Well, and what's funny is even in today's day and age where things like a Zoom are more prevalent, and things like that, people are just putting like some professional headshot up. It's
Oh,
like,
yeah,
what is the point of us getting on Zoom? Just call me. It's the same thing if you're gonna put a picture of yourself up, right? So
totally.
it's just something funny that I noticed that they're blurring around their background, or they're like my aunt, she keeps a pair of earrings and a scarf next to her. And so that
Yep,
when last minute she just pops on those earrings and pops on the scarf and puts a pair up in her clip, and she's like, "Hello," but she has
yep.
a different job where that's expected. So I think it also depends on where you work and who you work for, and if you work for yourself, like you can certainly have a lot more leeway than some people.
Okay, I know who left this comment. It says Facebook user, but just from the comment, I know who this is. But a bra, it's a challenge, a real one, not a uniboob. Hi, Carolyn. How are you? I'll give you like almost any amount of money. That's probably Carolyn, but she's not wrong. Yep, it's her. Okay. Um, but I think you're right that it's a lot more about attitude and it's a lot more about how you present yourself. And it is. Sometimes it is. Voila, here's a scarf and here's some earrings and I slapped on a little bit of makeup and you don't know that I'm wearing pajama pants under this desk. You have no idea.
And honestly, you know yourself better than anybody else. So one of the
Mhm.
reasons that I went ahead and actively made this change to what I was wearing, and this is pre-COVID, is I caught myself running upstairs and downstairs a lot. We have a full laboratory downstairs.
Mm.
We make a lot of the ink here. Upstairs is all offices. And I found myself running upstairs and downstairs a little bit. And I used to just wear like nice sandals because we're in Florida. So I used to just wear nice sandals. Now I feel like I am such a mover now that I'm wearing
Mhm.
sneakers. So in that sense, like go for it. If it's going to make you more efficient because you're wearing sneakers and athleisure wear, then if you're wearing a dress
Do it.
and cute sandals, I think that's a win as far as business goes, 100%.
It's totally true. Though now Carolyn's just giving me crap here. Look how lipstick has changed your life, though. She's the one that convinced me I need to wear lipstick on camera, and she wasn't wrong. But yes, lipstick has made a difference in terms of I think my appearance on camera is more put together than it used to be. But I think that's more because I've been doing this show for a long time now. And lipstick in the great scheme of things is not a real huge it's not like it takes a long, well, okay, if you're me, it might take a little bit sometimes, but anyway. It's good to have friends who will poke you when you're doing lives. It's fun. So I want to switch to another topic because this is one that I really wanted to discuss with you because you're the first fairly recent new mom I think I've ever had on the show. And your baby's 3 months old.
Yes, this week.
And congratulations. Very exciting. And I wanted to talk about, I'm trying to think how to phrase this the right way. And I think I'm just going to jump in and then we'll sort it out as we go. I wanted to talk a little bit about the expectations that people have around women and children. And it can be women who have children, women who don't have children. But I just wanted to ask you specifically, you have a new baby. Are there people who are saying, you should go back to work, you shouldn't go back to work, you should do this, you should do this, you shouldn't do that? Are you getting a lot of that, or?
So I feel as if I am a one of a kind situation, especially because I technically work for my father, right? My new baby grandpa. So I do think that provides me a lot more. And on some ways it's leeway, right? But then on the other hand, it's high expectations, right? Because my parents love to say, "To whom is given, much is expected." They love that saying.
Okay.
So, on one side, for example, I live 2.5 miles away from the office. We own the building. I can come in whenever I want. I can come in on Saturdays, on Sundays. Sometimes I come after I put the baby to sleep at night by myself. You know, I feel like that is such a blessing to have that as leeway, because for some that might not work for their schedule. But for me as a new mom, that's really helpful because that's when my husband's not working. So that is fantastic, right? But then on the other hand, last weekend I was with a friend and she had a friend there or whatever. And I have never met this person. They don't know what I do. They don't know that I work for my parents. They don't know me. And they said, "Oh, how long maternity leave did you take?" And depending on what your definition of maternity leave is, if your definition of maternity leave is someone is hired to be you or takes over your responsibilities for an X amount of time, then in that case, I did not take maternity leave. And his response was, "That's hardcore." I was like, "Well, I've been called a lot of things, but I don't think I've ever been called hardcore." So I took it as a compliment, right? You know, my husband, I had the epidural, and I said to my husband, I said, "Hand me my work phone." He goes, "You can't be serious." And I said, "I'm just sitting here. I'm not doing anything. I can't even move. Like, just let me get some stuff done." So for me, it also takes the drive, because this is something that I put so much time and effort into it. And I want to make sure that I keep that work-life balance, but keep the momentum that Artesprix have. And we're really on the verge of some big growth here. So I certainly wouldn't want to, I want to make every minute count, right? The baby always comes first, but next is definitely, baby and husband, I should say, come first, but then the next thing is work. So I feel that there's some really high expectations, right? But then I am in a very unique situation where I can meet those high expectations because I have such leeway in some areas, right? Like if I wasn't coming on Saturday and Sunday, there's no way you can do it all.
Right. Well, first of all, before we continue with this, I just want to say there's a couple people who said hello. Cindy says, "Hi, Ashley."
Hi, Cindy.
And Sarah Clark says,
"Hey,
"Hi,
Sarah."
Ashley." So I think you pinpoint, there's a lot of stuff I want to unpack in what you just said. And the first thing is that I think you have a situation that a lot of people in this particular industry may have more than in other industries, which is you work for a family-owned company or you work with family. And I think you're right in that does give you more leeway, but I think there's also, as you pointed out, maybe more of an expectation that you're going to keep moving forward, maybe because this is your family's legacy or whatever you want to call it. So do you think that's fair to say?
100%. That's exactly what.
Okay.
Mhm.
Because I think it's an interesting contradiction a little bit, because on one hand, it's like, hey, it's family. So yeah, it's your baby's grandfather and grandmother. So they're going to be a little more lenient in some ways. But on the other hand, because you've grown up in this tradition, there's an expectation that you're going to produce.
Right. That I'm essentially not going to take any time off, just using that as a if there's no way I could have told my dad I was going to check out of the business for 90 days. I mean, that just would not have flown. But the good news is on the flip side, I get to use that to my advantage. Like I say to my mom, I'm like, Mom, listen, you got to come over. If you want me to get that done, you got to come over. So that works out well in that sense too. So like you said, it's a lot of give and take with that situation. Again, that's unique to me.
Well, and it's also nice that the family's all there.
Yes.
So, that's the situation's a little different if you're living somewhere where you don't have family members that can come and help you out if you need to.
I'm very lucky my sister's at my house right now with the baby.
Now, does everybody in the family work for the company, or?
No, it's just me. So I'm one of 3, and I'm the only one that works here.
This is fascinating. I didn't know you guys were a family company. So now I'm like, oh, we got to talk about this. But I want to talk about it a little bit because it's something that has always made me curious. Did you always want to work for the company, or no?
No. So my dad started Asprix in 1982, and it's primarily a specialty chemical raw material type of business. So like snooze fest. Okay. It is very, very, very boring. But with chemicals, and especially since 1982, I mean, the product life cycle for some they're still around, right? And then some were very short because they found other more efficient, low cost ways of doing things. Like there's a million and one reasons why things change in our fluid and in our type of industry. But over the years, we found ourselves in printing. And we make raw materials for sublimation printers. And with that, we segued into the marker. So of course I was like, me, I'll do it. No. So before Artesprix existed, I did work here, and I worked on the chemical side of the business, still in sales. And then Artesprix was born, and they needed more people to segue over to that. So again, that's how I said, please pick me because it's so fun. I mean, I love this industry, the people, the shows, the customers, the vendors, coming up with new products. I mean, it is a lot of fun. So not that the other side of the business doesn't have their fun too, but this is a lot more fun.
Well, I just always wonder because I worked for a company I ran a company called Enmart for 14 years, and that was family owned.
Okay.
And there were interesting dynamics in that family. Let's just put it that way. But I always wonder when I talk to people who work in or work with family businesses, was that like, did you grow up working in the business? Did you go like far away and then came back, or?
So I always worked here to make extra money, like in the summers.
Sure.
But not every summer, but a lot of summers. But of course, since everything's like super high level thinking, if you will, because it's chemicals, you really have to like, know what you're doing, or you just have to kind of like, I was basically like a scanner type person. Like in high school, I never did anything interesting, if you will. Right? Never. I was just scanning things that needed to be uploaded that got filed to our electronic filing system. I mean, like that is basically what I did, or like cleaned stuff like that. I mean, it really wasn't, like clean folders out or whatever. Those type of stuff I stuck to. Then I ended up going to Auburn for business, and I ended up staying in Auburn for a very long time. I loved Auburn. My mom was like, and my parents were like, listen, you graduated. It's over. It's time to come home. It was so fun. I never wanted to leave. So War Eagle to anybody who cares. But that's when I came back here, and I have a degree in business management. And my dad said, come work for Esprit. And I thought, oh my God, that sounds so boring. And, if you think about it, my memories were scanning. I was like, oh no.
Right.
I was probably like 27. I'm 34 now. I said, oh no. He said, listen, I really think you should come. And so I did. And I'm so glad I did. I'm so glad I did. I think there are other, my siblings, I think for them, it's just that other side of the business. It's just so, it's interesting if you're like, if you want to geek out, right?
Right.
Yes, but not everybody's a geeker outer. So
well, are we talking like well, it's got to be chemistry, because it's got to be like making inks and stuff.
We sell things that have numbers, and it's like a periodic table, right? That's exactly what it is. So like if that's your thing, then it sounds really fun. So for me, I was coming into the business with sales experience and like management experience, whereas a lot of the other sales managers, they come from, like, I was the only one who didn't have a science degree, and I ended up going back to school at our local 4-year school and taking some chemistry courses so I could, be up to par with the other sales guys. But they all have, science background degrees. They don't have business degrees. So I was a little different coming into it.
Oh, wow. Science is just not even remotely my thing. So yeah, that would be like hard pass for me. But Artesprix, I think I could get behind. But the Esprit part, not so much.
Yeah, it is what we do say. It's where science meets art.
Right. There you go. And that's perfect. And we have another vote for Ashley is amazing. So.
That's my friend Marilyn. Thank you, Marilyn.
Oh, that's very sweet. But I want to circle back to the whole, I got off on the whole, family-owned business thing, but I want to circle back to the whole thing about new moms and children and all that stuff, because one of the things that I find, and we talked about this a little bit before the show too, but I never had kids and never wanted kids. And there are people who seem to be very offended by that. And everybody seems to have an opinion. Do you get that are there a lot of people like following you around going, you should really do this with the baby, or you should really, or is that not, I don't know.
I think for the most part, people are just very happy that I had the baby. Even my mom, who knows how much I work on the family business. When I told her I was pregnant, she literally went airborne. She jumped out of her seat. She was so excited. My dad, though, I could see his brain ticking. Like, what does this mean?
Yeah.
For work. Of course he was ecstatic. Don't get me wrong. But I could also see his brain thinking about how this is going to affect Artesprix's growth. So I worked like a dog the whole time I was pregnant. I was here all the time, on the weekends, at night, just because I knew that my life was going to change. And we're still, we do have that growth, which is great, but it's certainly not at the momentum as it was when I was not taking care of a child. But I think in the most part, people are just very happy for me. And they're, I did have a girl, so she's my new crafting BFF.
Your crafting BFF.
But I will say, as far as the timeline goes, we weren't planning on having kids right away. And that just obviously happened a little bit different. And I think that one of the reasons why I said to myself, I do want to wait a little bit, is so I could focus on the business. And so since things just kind of played out a little differently, I've just seen it work. And all you can do is do your best. That's all you can do.
Well, I have to say, number one, little girl, how many adorable things are there out there that you can make for a little girl to wear and have? And you're going to have so much fun. And you probably got like 5 million crafting presents from everybody.
People they're like, did you carry baby onesies because you're having a baby? I'm like, no, I wanted to bring those in anyway. Okay, please. So,
but since they're here,
yes, since they're here,
since they're here, we can make a few for the baby. But Well, I just love this because I think you just brought up a really good point, and I want to talk about this a little bit, which is regardless of what you do, it doesn't have to be a baby. It can be getting married. It can be dealing with an illness that you didn't have before, whatever it is. There are a lot of demands, or dealing with caretaking for elderly parents or whatever it is. There are a lot of demands that happen to women that you have to plan for. So did you like sit down and make a plan for how this was going to work, or did you just know?
I probably should have done that, but I didn't.
Okay.
um, well, you know what? I will say, I know that people, Artistry is a very small company. There's about, 15 full-time employees who work at art or Esprit, I should say, right?
Mhm.
And we all share but I have a lot of back of house support. And I'm going to give
Mhm.
a shout out to all the people on the art team Artistry. I mean, I cannot do it without them. And I think during my pregnancy, I just slowly put a little bit more expectations and delegations to them that's on sometimes things that I would be doing myself. And I think that made a really, really big difference. In the grand scheme of things, was that I just said, it would be really great if this could now be your thing. And I
Mhm.
also put in some like operational things that made, because I'm not here, right? Going back
Mhm.
to being at the office first home, there are things I said, okay, I don't have to be here to ask you if this is, being followed through or whatever. I can just go online here and see and, check
Right.
the list. So that's what I think.
So there was kind of, maybe not like written out
It
and
wasn't
step
written
by
down.
step, but you had some thoughts, which I think is a testament to having a good team, that you can change them up a little bit and trust them to do what they're supposed to do. And I think it's also an interesting comment on how women think. Because I think women tend to think in that way. It's like, okay, what's the contingencies? What's the plan? How can I cover everything and make sure it all gets done?
And you can't do
So,
everything. And one of the other things
no.
that I did that I just thought about is I did outsource a few things that I was doing to companies, and that not just because I can't, I don't have enough time to do those, but those are things that, I'm not a professional at everything. And sometimes
Mhm.
it's better to outsource, especially like I said, we're on the verge of some really great growth. That'll be something that will help Artistry long term, somebody who's actually, trained and has the knowledge to do this, as opposed to me, figuring it out and sometimes YouTubing things to learn, right? So like, let's stop doing that. And
Mhm.
I've done a good job of using, doing it, but let's take it to the next level, and that's a win-win, because then we're going to take it to the next level as far as the business, and I get some of my time back.
Well, and I love that, and that's a point that everybody listening and all the women in the world, I wanna broadcast that too, which is we have a tendency to think that it's almost like wrong or a sin or something to spend money on having someone do something, or to get I have this argument with female friends and women that I work with all the time, and I had to teach myself this, that it's like, if I'm doing that, I'm not doing the things that are really gonna help us make money or
Hmm.
help me make money.
Right.
So if I get my groceries delivered, yeah, maybe it costs me an extra 10 bucks, but if I write an article that makes me a lot more than that, is that worth it?
Yes,
You know?
100%. And I can relate to that even outside of the work stuff. um I finally got a housekeeper.
Mhm.
Once I got really, really pregnant, and then I had her come bi-weekly, and now she comes every week. And I don't know how I would do all this for the business, do everything for the baby. Like, you can't do it all. So outsource it. And that's also good for your mental health. If you're
Yes.
not thinking about all the things you have to be, like yesterday I said to my husband, she comes tomorrow. So tomorrow's going to be a great day. We're both going to come home, and everything's going to be clean.
Everything's gonna be clean.
Tomorrow's a great day.
Well, and I think, like I said, this is a message that I really wish I could beam to every woman out there, because I think we have so much guilt about it that we're supposed to be able to do everything. And it's like, I mean, I'm single. I have no kids. I am not in a relationship at the moment. It's just me. And there are things that I outsource just because I can,
Yeah.
you
As
know?
you should. Good for you.
Well, and like I said, the other calculation is, okay, if I outsource this thing, can I do this other thing that's going to ultimately pay off much bigger than the thing that I outsourced? So I want to skip to another topic, because this is something that I always am interested in talking about with people who do the same sort of job that I've done in the past, which is being the face of a company. Because I think there's pros and cons of this, but the first thing I want to ask you is, do you remember the first time that you went somewhere and somebody kind of was a fan?
You know, I will say yes, it has happened, and they say it's Artesprix Ashley because that's my Facebook.
Right.
Like, I'm so glad, and anybody take this as advice. If you have a personal Facebook, like me, I've had one since
Mm,
2007, right? And you start doing stuff for work, and it is truly a separate thing. You've got your personal stuff, pictures of the baby, like what have you, versus your work Facebook. I'm so glad that I have two, right? I'm so
yep.
glad that I have two, and that I don't have my last name up there. I mean, it's not a secret, but I just think it works out well.
Yep.
And so people say, "Oh, you're Artesprix Ashley," and I'm like, I guess that's me now. That's my stage name. Okay,
Mhm.
so so
I will
it has happened.
I will say that I didn't mean to interrupt, but I think that's such a good point, because I do the same thing. I have my name is on the work one, but because I couldn't come up with a catchy something, but like you, but it's all work.
Right.
There's very little that's personal there. It's all like image. Not, I don't want to say image stuff because that doesn't sound right, but it's all like work related stuff. It isn't like, hey, I went out and got smashed last week or whatever. Not that I would say that, but not that I would ever say that.
But you're right, and I think it's good for your personal relationships with your friends and family, because they like, not to say that they don't care, but really, do they? I don't know.
They don't.
You want them to silence you, so then that way, when you actually say something that's worth, then they miss it because it was all about work.
Right.
So if I can recommend that to anybody, is have two Facebooks, and then you never know, you might come up with a great stage name. Like,
Well, Artistry Ashley is a good one, I gotta say. Um, but I think that's an interesting phenomenon, and it's something that I want to talk about a little bit, because for me, I mean, people knew me from when I was at Enmart, and they knew who I was. But then when I left Enmart and I started doing what I do now, I started working for a trade show. And the first year that I went to the show, it was really, I don't know if this is just me, so I need to ask you, is it weird for you when people are excited to meet you?
it's I wouldn't say weird is the right term, but it's interesting because, like, some people, like, people friend request me because it's a person.
Sure.
So they'll friend request me, and I don't know them. I've never met them.
Yep.
I know nothing about them. Obviously I try to do some background stuff, so
Sure.
like not a bot or whatever. But if you friend request me and I have not accepted, do not take it personally. I just haven't had time to make sure you're not a robot
A weirdo.
or whatever. But yeah, I mean, sometimes I just wish that I I actually knew, I could reciprocate the
Mhm.
excitement, if you will, because I just try to be polite and just say thank you.
Mhm.
I'm so glad we're friends, even though, what's your name again?
Yeah.
But I do, like, going back, you just do your best. So I try to go through them when I can, And,
Mhm.
but I think there's a value there too, especially for us in the business.
Mhm. Well, and I think it's interesting because it took me a while to figure this out, that people see us, doing lives and doing things and talking to them, and if you're good at it, you do form a relationship in a way, but we don't know it. Because we don't, I mean, like, I can see how many people are watching this now, and it's lovely, and I'm thrilled, but I don't know unless they leave me a comment. I don't know who's watching.
Right. Right. Well, and I think that's one of the reasons I love doing in-person events.
Mhm.
Certainly miss them the time that, COVID and everything happened. But even today, we have a Facebook group for the affiliates. I went live in the Facebook group, and there was a girl who said she's going to be at Creativation this year. And she was one of the first people that came to our booth, our first
Mhm.
Creativation, like way back when in 2018. And I'll never forget her and her family. And the guy thought our products were so cool. And we gave him markers, we went back to his hotel and drew something, and we still have the t-shirt. I mean, like you said, if you make that effort,
Mhm.
and then you can certainly build that relationship, and if they're unforgettable, you won't forget them, kind of thing. And
Totally.
I'm big into, like, when I meet someone, I try to say their name.
Mhm.
They're like, I'm John, and I'm like, oh, hello, John, because then that helps me remember uh,
Right.
their name. So I do try to do that, and I think little things like that do make a big difference long term.
Well, I'm laughing at this comment that just came in because Cindy is proving my point here. I'm going to a bag purse trade show this weekend. I'm going to meet one of my favorite designers and take her classes. 3 exclamation points or 4. I am super excited. 5 exclamation points. I love meeting my YouTube people. Way a lot of exclamation points. And I think on one hand, that's so awesome. I mean, on one hand, that's awesome, that you had that you're meeting someone you care about, that person's what they put out there resonates with you. That's wonderful. On the other, and I don't know, maybe this is just me, it was just such a mind shift change for me a little bit when people were like, hey, I know who you are and I enjoy what you do and it means something to me, and I was like, what?
Right. Well, and then it goes back to our first year in business. I'd be like, oh my God, they bought all this stuff. And then
Hmm.
and then the accounting guy's like, Yash, that's why we're here. Like, da-da. But sometimes it still surprises you. So, but you still believe in yourself from the beginning, or else you wouldn't even get there or have the
Oh,
product
sure.
show or whatever, right? But still, sometimes you're like, oh my God, check this out. Because you don't, because you're not on the other side of the looking glass.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it's also a little bit of, I don't know what I wanna call, I don't wanna say self-esteem because that's not it, but maybe you just feel a little bit, maybe it's more like, "Hey, I had this plan and now it actually worked."
Right.
I think that's funny. But, we have a comment from Sheila here too, and she says, "I'm watching y'all, working while listening in the background. I catch up what I missed while walking lately." Well, there you go. I love it. But we're getting close to the end of our time together, but I want to talk about one more thing, which is, so you're a woman in the industry who's done well, and you've taken a company and made it, people know. I remember when I didn't know what Artesprix was. And, now I do. And I see you guys everywhere and I see your products and I see people talking about them and showcasing them and all this stuff. So well done, you.
Thank you.
Um, but I want to ask about how we help other women get to this point, because this is a big thing of mine. I run a group about this. Um, and I think women need to support each other more. So I'm going to put that question to you, I guess. Do you belong to any networks? Are you what
I
do you do?
I don't belong to any, female networks in particular. But I will say that this industry is primarily women, right? So in my affiliate
Yes.
group, I think I have 2 gentlemen, and then the rest are female, and I think there's almost 70 affiliates
Hmm.
in there. Um, and I am so lucky that I have such great affiliates because I would call them my network, right? They are
Hmm.
they are the extension of me in the front of house of Artesprix, using like a restaurant terminology, right? They
Yep.
are the other front of house, right? Whereas back of house, I've got all this help, right? But as far as the front of house, like you said, being the face, it's really me
Hmm.
and my amazing affiliates. And they have given me so much grace lately and patience through getting out their bi-monthly shipments, information that they need about new products that are coming out, all that stuff. Before I was on it like white on rice, right?
Sure.
You got it. You got your tracking as soon as it left here. You never got the track. Like sometimes now I email them and I'm like, hey, it looks like your package was delivered on Thursday. I'm certainly not as ahead as I used to be, and they are so understanding, Christine. And I
Hmm.
think a lot of that comes with them being moms themselves, right?
Sure.
Have been in my shoes. So they get it, and they are just so understanding. And not only that, but sometimes they even say, "Let me know what I can do. Let me know what
Hmm.
what I can do to help." Like going back to that outsourcing, what can I do? And guess what? That started a lot of great conversations because
Hmm.
I don't think they would have maybe put their hand out, right, to say how can we help you. And now I've got someone next month. Someone's going to start doing Facebook Lives in the group and on the page. And our YouTube video or our YouTube channel is a sad state of affairs. We haven't done anything with it since 2020. And we're going to start doing those live next month and helping someone helping me with Instagram. So again, I just feel like they're my network. They're here to
Hmm.
help and they do a fantastic job. And some of them have been with us since the very beginning. And I used to say to them in the beginning, I'm like, just stick with me. I know it's an adventure. It's called I say to my affiliate lives all the time, I go, this is the Artistry adventure. And I'm glad you are along for the ride because I do give them a lot of like behind the scenes and
Hmm.
work struggles, right? Things like that. And I think that helps them feel a part of us and our
Hmm.
network because I don't know if other companies do that. I have no idea. I don't know if they do that, but I'll tell them when I ordered things versus struggles that maybe something happened or whatever. I tell them all those things. And I think that makes us feel like even more of a team.
Well, there's a lot of stuff in what you said there too that I could unpack too, but I want to hit a couple of comments first because we've got some good stuff here. This will do what I want it to. Come on, baby, you can do it. Sarah says, and you've got to be aware of how you interact, talking about when you're the face or meeting people. I've definitely met people in person who turned out not to be what they portrayed in their content. Oh, so have I. And it's really disheartening when somebody that you really liked when you saw them on camera or just they don't have time to talk to you or they're kind of dismissive or whatever.
And it's so
But
funny going back to people like they're like, "Oh, you're exactly like you are."
mm,
And I thought to myself, "Well, aren't I supposed to be like?"
yeah, I get that too. People are like, "Oh, you're exactly like you are on camera." And I'm like, "Well, why would I be different?"
Why would I be different?
Because I don't want it to be disappointing when you meet me in person. I want you to be like, oh, you're just, plus, I personally am not for everyone. So I want you to understand who I am before you meet me so that when you meet me, you're not like, oh, to whatever. I get to whatever a lot. So,
That doesn't sound
anyway.
like a bad thing, Christine.
I am what I am. Like I said, I'm 54. I feel like I've finally grown into who I am and I like who I am. So if it's not for you, it's not.
That's okay.
Not everybody is my taste. So, people are different. And then Sarah says, "Ah, we love you too, Ashley." And Jazzy's Creation says Ashley has built that Artesprix creative community by being transparent and just being herself. So lots of kudos and support for you there, which is a sign.
I'm already emotional wreck. Oh my God, they're gonna make me cry.
Well, I think that's what you need to have, though. You need to have people. I mean, it's obvious from talking to you that you love the company, you love what you do, you care about it. And I think that's what you need to have, because I've worked for people that they had a company, but it wasn't their passion. It was kind of like, this is how we make money, and there's a difference and you can tell.
Well, and I will tell you, I am not crafty. They know it. Okay.
I'm so not either.
Are you?
Not at all.
Isn't that so funny? And so for me, yes, like you said, I'm so passionate about the business, but my background is sales and marketing. And when you believe in the product and you see its potential, that is something that has given me the drive to keep it going, keep growing. We have a full-time chemist dedicated to Artesprix who's also female. And we're coming up with new products, and it's so fun and it's exciting. And when you watch other people get excited about it, I think that's what brings me joy. And I'm like, okay, we have to keep going. Like, you guys have no idea how excited they are about the paints. Right? That was huge for us.
Oh yeah.
And it's brought in so much great other vendors and companies have started to want to work with us. Even people contacting us to buy us, right? In the industry. Obviously, I'm not going to say who, but that has happened.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So, I think that and I'm like, Dad, say no. And then that just gives me the drive to just keep going. So
I can even guess who might have contacted you to say we'd like to buy you, but I won't go there. I have my suspicions, though. But I will say, I think you're right. And I think it's, because I have always been very transparent that I got into this whole industry by accident. And I'm a writer and I'm a marketer. I am not a crafter. I don't do any of the stuff that all of these people do. Never have, never wanted to. But I'm really good at listening and learning. And I can communicate what I learned to other people. And that's what I've done. And then I accidentally along the way helped found a company and then ran it for a number of years. But that was kind of a fluke. But I think it's funny that it's the passion about what the potential, not necessarily loving being able to do the actual making. Does that make sense?
Yes, I have no interest. That's why I have my amazing affiliates. I have no interest in doing that. Of course, I do things just to show them, but it's literally just to show, and then at the end of each project, I go, okay, so now imagine you're doing it and I'm showing you how it can be. Now you take all that creative extraness that you got and you combine it with this and run with it. And I think that makes us a great team, because you do what you do and let other people do what they do. And that's how you become a successful team as a whole, because not one person's going to be fantastic at it all.
Oh, and I love that advice. And I also think that it makes sense that there are people who can be part of this industry that don't necessarily do the stuff. I mean, I have embroidered once in my life, and by embroidered, I mean I pushed the button.
Right?
That's pretty much what I did, and it was pretty cool. But I was like, this does not make me want to go get an embroidery machine. I have sublimated some stuff. I have played with Artesprix markers, but none of it is. It's all very cool, and I love to see what people make with it. But there are people way more talented than me,
right,
who can do the actual making. Let's put it that way.
And I do it when I have to, right? If I have some stuff that I need to make for creativation, that's fine. And sometimes I can get personally excited about it. Like I've hosted like a little happy hour here at night
Mm-hmm.
with some girlfriends, and I love showing them what it can do. So little stuff like that I'll do. But like I said, leave the creating to the creative professionals.
Oh, I like the happy hour idea. But before I go off on another tangent, we are well, we're pretty close to an hour now, and I know you have a baby waiting for you at home, so you need to get home to her. So thank you, thank you, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today. It was so fun, and I'm glad to finally meet you in
Yeah.
person, so to speak.
Yes, it's been great. Thank you so much for asking me to be on. I'm really glad that I did it.
Oh, I'm glad you did too. And for anybody that wants to find Artesprix, the information about them is on the Women in Business Facebook page. So please go check there. You can see links. Thank you, Ashley, so much. I'm hitting end broadcast now before I go off on another tangent.
Okay, have a great afternoon. Thank